Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, where we put the Asian into aviation. God, this was so bad. And today I want to continue our points and miles mini-series so I can tell you how you can get all of the miles in this world. And before I begin, I highly recommend you to take a look of the previous episode if you have not watched it, because it tells you what is exactly a point or a mile, and there are a lot of concepts that I really need you to grasp it before you can understand this episode. All good? Let's begin. And first up, of course, we need to divide this into two sections, how you can get EQM and how you can get RDM. And as I said before in the previous episode, EQM is basically worthless since they get wiped out every year. So in order to get the elite qualifying miles, there's really not that many ways to bypass it, and it really doesn't matter if you can bypass it or not, right? Because this is basically a metric the airlines use to measure their internally documents that how many people have spent how much money with their airline, so there's really no incentive for them to give you any way to bypass it. Sure, there are a few credit cards that they offer in order to give you some of the extra EQM so you can qualify for the elite tier a little bit faster, but really the most majority people will actually get EQM is simply by flying or consuming their products. Yeah, let's not waste time on this. Let's move on to RDM. As for RDM, it gets quite interesting because there are quite a lot of ways that can get you an obscene amount of miles without doing way too much of an effort or flying all around the world non-stop. This is because there are quite a lot of ways for the airlines as well as other places to partner up, and the other places simply rebate the airline a little bit of money in exchange of the airline's loyalty customers in order to reach them with some extra incentives such as a little bit of redeemable miles. Well, one of the best examples are the car rental agencies. If you check most of the car rental agencies, you're going to find out that on their website, they have listed dozens upon dozens of airline frequent traveler program because they have that many places in order to rent as well as cooperate with the airlines, because they have thousands upon thousands of locations where they can work seamlessly with the airline that simply drop off the most high valued customers and in order for them to rent their cars. But the problem with the car rental agency with redeemable miles is that they usually do not award too many miles. This is the problem with car rental agencies. They are very stingy if you have dealt with any of them. So usually they award you based upon every day that you are renting with them. So barely 500 to 1,000 miles per day. And at the end, every rental will only come out to be a couple thousand miles if you're lucky. So yeah, they are not the most reliable way of earning miles. But hey, if you are gonna travel a lot and then rent a lot of cars at your destinations, why not get some extra 1,000 points of miles on top of that, right? Another really fringe but can potentially be useful ways of earning miles is through the airline's shopping portals. A lot of the airlines, especially the big ones, will have really robust websites that can refer to you to some of the shops that you might as well be going on a daily shopping basis, and they will receive a certain rebate from the shops that you will be visiting. And then they will reward you in proportion with some of the consumption that you have done in those online shops in the form of miles and points. And yeah, they don't really reward too much, but if you are going to buy that thing on that website anyway, why not check the airline shopping portals for some potential savings in the form of miles and points. And now comes the big hitter, earning miles through credit cards. And it is very complicated because the program is intentionally designed to be as confusing as possible. So this is my job here to help you get an easier experience as well as an easier reward throughout the entire process. So let me break down all of the three major ways that you can earn miles through credit cards. And let's start with an easy one to understand, co-branded credit cards. This is basically the most direct way an airline as well as a bank can partner up with each other. For example, American Airlines A-Advantage loyalty flyer program partners up with Citibank. And that means Citibank has now been issuing quite a lot of credit cards that have American A-Advantage logo in the front of it. And these are co-branded credit cards. And that means for every dollar you consume on that credit card, it would directly credit a number of miles based on the amount that you have spent into your A-Advantage program's number or that account, if you have linked the two accounts together when you signed up. So that means, for example, if you spend $50 on a restaurant purchase in Chipotle, Citibank will basically go into their system and say, okay, for this credit card, every dollar spent on a restaurant purchase is 2 miles. And then they would directly tell American Airlines that, oh, give this guy 100 miles on his A-Advantage account. And then American Airlines would generate 100 points and put it into the system. While some of the less profitable categories will generate about 1 or maybe 2 points per dollar spent, a lot of the other more powerful or perhaps more consumer behavior shifting purchases, such as buying tickets directly on American Airlines official website, can potentially help generate 4 or even 6 or even 10 miles per dollar spent. So it is really interesting that a lot of these airlines decide to partner up with these banks so they can basically share their information with each other and potentially affect how you purchase these things. Well, next up is something a little bit more complicated, but runs in the same vein of co-branded credit cards, which is the interaction between the airlines programs as well as the big banks and their own programs. So instead of having a direct tie between the airline as well as your credit card, you add a middleman, which is the program of the big banks. Let me explain. For example, if you have a card that does not have a specific program tied to it, if you look at it, it doesn't have any airlines or whatever's name on it, then it is very likely that the program that it is associated with is the bank's own program. And this can be actually a good thing. Well, let's say you're still eating for $50 in Chipotle, and then the card still awards you 2 points for every dollar spent on restaurant categories. The banks will simply tell its own program that, okay, this guy spent $50 and then gets 2 points for every dollar spent. Their own program, for example, the Capital One, will generate their own 100 points of Capital One points in your account of Capital One Bank. And that means this is not tied to any airline specifically. And the good thing about that is that usually Capital One, for example, is tied with more than a dozen different kinds of airlines all around the world. And this means that your points are much more flexible. Whenever you need to buy a certain ticket or with a certain alliance, you can simply pick and choose where do you transfer these miles into a specific airline that can be in the alliance that you want to purchase from. And that means that these miles you get with the banks are much more flexible and they are much more valuable. And the last thing is also the most profitable and perhaps the trickiest, which is the signing up bonuses. Let's just say if it's a direct co-branded credit card with Citibank as well as American Airlines. Citibank will try to advertise, hey, like if you sign up with our bank with this credit card, if you spend $3,000 in the first month, we will give you 50,000 extra American Airlines points. And you are just like, wow, this is the best deal ever. And you sign up for the card and then you tie it with your American Airlines account and spend $3,000 in the first month. Citibank will tell American Airlines, okay, this guy has reached a certain threshold. Let's just give him free 50,000 points. American Airlines will generate the amount of points and put it into your account. Well, then you must be thinking, wow, this is the best deal ever. How can they potentially earn money, right? Well, don't worry about it. They make sure that they will get your money back. Well, this is because American Airlines will actually end up with a lot more loyal customers who will always try to spend as money as possible on this program, as well as to fly with American Airlines as many times as possible. While for Citibank, they will basically get extra amount of customers without spending quite a lot of money on advertising and other things, because the attractions of extra points attract way more people and way more efficiently than putting up billboards in city centers, for example. So yeah, a lot of these points will actually end up being wasted on very low value redemptions on economy flights, which does not cost American Airlines almost a dime, and also just end up being wasted by expiring. So yeah, American Airlines wins big by getting paid to do almost nothing, while Citibank gets extra customers that can potentially be advertised with their financial products and way more other things. Well, now you understand how you can get miles with credit cards. Let me tell you another way you can get miles easy and quick, which is purchasing it from the airlines directly. Yeah, it's actually a very, very bad deal most of the time, given the fact that you do not have the same purchasing power as those big conglomerate banks. So really, you are getting a very, very bad value if you are ever purchasing miles. But under 99% of the time, I do not recommend you to do this. But for that 1% of the time, I think it can potentially be a good deal. Well, how does it work? Well, in those 1% of the time include, for example, you have 95,000 points, right? And then your dream redemption for a first class ticket costs 100,000 points. You're 5,000 points short, but you don't want to fly an extra distance or perhaps pay hundreds of dollars to get another flight that can give you 20,000 or 30,000 points. Well, just go to the airline website and try to buy 5,000 points to top up the account. That can potentially be worth it. But of course, you're still getting a really, really bad deal for each mile purchased. But hey, That's life. And next up is something that can potentially be worth it is whenever there's a sale. And then I recommend you to look at the past historical sales they have had in the past 1 or 2 years and see that if they give a better bonus in the past or not. A lot of the airlines will periodically offer 40 to 50% extra miles if you purchase it through them directly, but usually they are not worth it. While Avianca Life Miles is notorious for giving like 150% extra miles, you need to keep an eye on some of the quirks and features of a lot of these programs. But sometimes it can potentially be worth it if it has a historical sale of like 50 or 70 extra % miles if normally they only give 20% extra. So you really need to remember that you should not purchase miles speculatively. That means that you should not buy miles if you don't know any use for it in the near future. But that is something that I will address in the warning section of this video, so hold on tight. But now let's move on to the most prominent and perhaps the easiest way to get miles: flying. Well, how do you get miles by flying? Well, easy, right? Whenever you book a flight either with the airline directly or with an online travel agency such as Priceline or CheapOair, whenever it comes up for the prompt that you need to enter your frequent traveler number, you just go type in whatever airline you're affiliated with and then put in your number, right? That is pretty simple and easy. Well, hold on there, buckaroo. There are quite a few things that you need to remember and keep in mind. The first thing is that the airlines will not only award you miles for flying with them directly, but also flying with their partners. Well, what partners, you say? Well, if you take a look of my alliances video, you can see here on the top right, you're gonna see that all of the alliances have stipulated clauses that if you fly a member of the certain alliance, any other program in the same alliance will have to give you miles. So yeah, if you fly on Lufthansa, you can definitely credit it onto your United Airlines Mileage Plus Club. So just to keep in mind that whenever you sign up with a specific airline, you are not only just signing up with that airline, you're also basically getting affiliated with all of its partners in the alliance. And the second thing is that it's not just alliances. A lot of the airlines will actually partner with airlines not in their own alliance, and sometimes even in rival alliances. So a lot of the airlines such as Air Canada simply decide to partner up with every single person under the sun. And that means Air Canada's program is extremely valuable given the fact that if you sign up with their Aeroplan program, you are almost guaranteed with earning miles with almost every other Star Alliance partner, but also more than 2 dozens of all kinds of other partners ranging from small airlines all around the world to car rental agencies and all kinds of random consumer electronics websites and other things. So it is actually a very good deal to find a very good program that you sign up with and stick to that program for the long term. Well, here I come to rain on your parade again. As you are excitedly searching for this video, you are probably thinking about, oh my god, miles are so useful. It sounds so cool to have 2 million miles sitting in my account. I feel like I'm a millionaire. This is the best thing ever. Well, I'm here to tell you, you should never have 2 million miles in your account. One of the golden rules of frequent flyer program as well as travel hacking is that do not hoard miles, because the airlines have the incentive to devalue them as quickly and as frequently as possible. Well, if you remember my last part, I talked about how the airlines completely own your miles. Yeah, you do not control your own miles. So of course, they are very incentivized to make them as worthless as possible. And here's the kicker. Okay, every year, of course, every company has to file their taxes as well as their financials and blah, blah, blah. The airlines decided to spin off their own frequent flyer programs into their own companies. So their financials are not as clear-cut as the airlines who are actually flying the airplanes in and out of the airport and blah, 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 because they are subject to a different kind of law. Well, this makes sure that they need to be a little bit, how do I say this, tricky when it goes to the accounting in the frequent flyer program, because in some of the cases, a lot of these airlines, they earn money that is way less than what they are generating in the frequent flyer program, and some of the airlines generate 10 times or even 20 times more profit with their frequent flyer program than actually flying the airplanes themselves. So how do they do that? Well, one of the easier thing is that to account all of the miles and the points they have awarded you as some kind of liability. So they will be assigning a dollar value to every mile that they have outstanding. So what that means is that if they give you 10,000 points, in their own books, they will just say, okay, I own you Let's just say $50, okay? Yeah, but actually those miles are worth way more than $50. So what do? They will need to devalue these points in real life so that it will be closer matched with the value they have on the books that they have cooked in order for them to be, like, how do I say this, less damaging when you redeem those points for a flight. So yeah, that is exactly how it works, and that is why they are financially incentivized to devalue your points as quickly and as frequently as possible. So if you have 2 million miles that can potentially be worth $30,000 today, it'll probably be worth less than $20,000 in a year from now. Now that we have gone through almost every way you can earn miles, I hope you have learned something new in today's episode. And if you did, or if you have enjoyed today's episode, consider clicking the like button down there, okay? It really helps me out. And for those of you mile hoarders out there, really, heed to my suggestion, okay? Keep your balance beneath 500,000 points. There's almost no use of you for anything more than 1 million points, trust me. 99.99% of the chances is that you're gonna get devalued, right? And the devaluations, as I said, are coming, and they are coming more frequently than ever before. Well, that is all I have today for how you can earn miles. And don't forget to subscribe if you want to tune in and be the first person to watch the next episode in this mini-series, which is how you can calculate how many miles you're gonna earn when you are flying on a flight. And I'll see you in the next part, okay?